morning. Little music for you as you come into the room and we get going. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved that rascal Puff and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist, land called Honolulu. Together they would travel on a boat with billowed sail. Jackie kept a lookout perched on Puff's gigantic tail. Noble kings and princes would bow whene'er they came. Pirate ships would lower their flags when Puff roared out his name. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. A dragon lives forever, but not so little boys. Painted wings and giant rings make way for other toys. One great night it happened, Jackie Paper came no more. And Puff that mighty dragon, he ceased his fearless roar. His head was bent in sorrow, green scales fell like rain. Puff no longer went to play along the cherry lane. Without his lifelong friend, Puff could not be brave. So Puff, that mighty dragon, sadly slipped into his cave. Oh, Puff, the magic dragon, lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Good morning, everyone. So glad you're here. I'm Leslie Flowers, and that was in tribute to Peter Yarrow, who was part of Peter, Paul, and Mary, who made Puff the Magic Dragon a hit. And so I wanted to think about him and all the beautiful songs that he has left us with. So how is everyone this morning? Thank you for coming. Let me move the microphone over here. And obviously we are live on LinkedIn. Let me welcome you. And there is Omar. Good morning. Omar is in Phoenix, unless he's traveling. And hi, Elizabeth. Elizabeth's in Rhode Island. Thank you, Zion. Please check your direct messages from me. I'm waiting for a confirmation from you. Hey, Deb, how are you? I'm glad. I wish you were here with me and you could harmonize with me. They are something else. And Leanna, all from Duluth. Gee, you know what? We're looking for some snow here in North Carolina in the United States. And I bet you already have it because we're getting it from our Canadian friends. Deb, awesome. From Nigeria, from Rhode Island, yay. Zarar is calling from Pakistan, I think Lahore. And look at this. Oh, thank you, Lay. Lay is out on the West Coast. So that is like 7 a.m. for her. So brava to you all. And today we have 45 minutes, and this is the second week of the Think and Grow Rich principles of success, how they work, what the lessons are. And we're bringing in character development, and it's of courage, because as I realize that most everything we do requires courage, unless we're just sitting back on the couch, right? Which is part of the time, and that's okay too. And character building, and then visualization. Visualization in my work is the DNA of manifestation. Once you know how to do visualization and you understand how it works, you can do it too. You've already done it. Children do it all the time. You've just forgotten. It's not as natural for you now, based on our life experiences and our fears. So I'm Leslie Flowers, and I love learning and sharing with you after 16 years of deep focused study on Think and Grow Rich, which is the #2 bestseller in personal development of all time. And what does that say? That tells you that over the last 100 years, if you look at all your personal development greats who have hit it big, it's all built on Think and Grow Rich. And when I first started in 2007, I had never heard of it or any of the principles of success. But in a few years, as I got to be really good at teaching this in mastermind fashion, people were starting to get it. I realized that women knew nothing about this. Men inherently had inherited business behaviors, if you will. And we, 30, 40 years ago, stepped into 21st century business with a whole different set of behaviors. So it was impossible for us to, as women, to ask for the same pay as men, because we had learning to do. And so in 2013 is when I started helping women ask for what they deserve and be paid, and how to emulate business practices without losing femininity. And that emulation was visualization. To actually see ourselves as landing as something different than we know ourselves to be. We're much more than we know ourselves to be. And this is the reason that I very often acknowledge people. When you acknowledge me, it's always better than I could put it into my own words. Our self-image is not as robust as your view of me. My self-image is not as robust as your view of me may be, and hopefully is. So let's say hello to Bethan, who is a lovely coach calling in from the United Kingdom. And here is Dr. Marcia. She is in the United States right now. There's Eliza. Hi, Eliza. So glad you're here. And calling in from Toronto. And so is Ashif, calling in from Toronto. He's not driving right now. So glad that you're all here. Being #2 in the series of 12 weeks or so, this is a really good spot to begin. Now, let me go ahead and show you what we're going to do today. We have 45 minutes, and I'm going to be teaching. So what I really love to see is your questions, your queries, your takeaways, your ha-has. I'm not very good at going back. I'll be very honest with you. Once I'm done with this, I meet my daughter for lunch every week. So while I ought to stay and answer all your comments, I don't do that as consistently as I would like. So please forgive me, but don't let that stop you, because this is recorded, and anyone who watches this, including yourself, which I recommend you watch this again and even again before you move forward. Same thing with reading the book. If you're reading Think and Grow Rich, you will have only read the introduction several times, which we did last week. Then you could begin with this week, which is desire. But our tendency is to move very quickly through all the material, but that is counterintuitive to how you absorb it. We learn through repetition. Repetition is the first law of learning. That's how we learned our times tables. That's how we learned to diagram a sentence. To this day, I still have nightmares about diagramming. I don't think they do it anymore. So I'm here every Friday, and I will figure out and tell you what we've done the week before. This is a linear training, so you really want to start at the beginning. Let's see here. Oh, good morning, Jay Pasqua, our storyteller. So good to see you, Jay. Jay loves this work. And Bethan says, fantastic. I saw that. Congratulations. And for those of you who are here, understand that we all are on the same thought frequency. You love learning. You enjoy this. You resonate with me. My intention is to share it with you as simply as I can so that you get it, so that you go, oh, out of confusion comes order. And when we're confused, certainly when I'm confused, I'm hesitant to take any action. I would rather be clear on what the action is. However, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that I really have always been an aim, fire, ready girl. So I would be out shooting before I even, aimed. And really, it needs to be ready, aim, fire. So that was, for me, a big lesson. So let's take a look at, and I hope you're all doing well. It's New Year. This is the first full week? It sure is. We're finishing up the first full week. Okay. So let me just make this a little bit bigger for you for a moment. Okay. So this week we're starting with the first principle of success, which is desire, which is the starting point of all achievement, but it really isn't. It's really preceded by what we studied last week, which was the introduction, which is all about definite, specific purpose. All of these things work if you can figure out what you want and see it in your mind's eye clearly, as though it's already happened. So you're reigniting your imagination, because most of us quit using our imagination when the teacher said, Leslie, stop daydreaming and pay attention to the lesson. So most adults don't have a good grasp on the power of imagination. Children do, because they use it all the time. We don't, because we build a whole host of fears through our living experience, and it squelches a lot of our creativity. And that's what this work is about. This work is about really thinking, making choices about what you're thinking, and considering new ways of thinking. So what I can tell you about me is that over the last 16 years, in my 12-week program, where I teach all of this, universal laws, everything I know, and I've been studying personal development for 25 years. You get a little quantum physics, a little metaphysics, but primarily universal law, principles of success, and achievement, consistent goal achievement. Now, over the last 16 years, I have documented 500 completed 12-week goals by my clients over a period of 62 business quarters. They're all written down. So any of these that you want to see, it is possible to have what you want, as long as you know the things you didn't know before. As soon as you get it and the light bulb goes off, you're ready to go. And unfortunately, there's only 3 or 4% of people that really stick with this work. Why did I do it 16 years ago? It was through intuition. I loved teaching. I didn't know anything about Think and Grow Rich, nothing. But I loved teaching, and I knew about The Secret, the movie The Secret that had come out in the book around 2006. And I was working, making $2,500 a month as a secretary. And I opened a meetup group called The Secret Society. And we began studying the practices and practitioners. It was so much fun. But long story short, I ended up, through being guided on Bob Proctor's site, and he was the old gentleman that seemed to be in charge of the movie The Secret, but I didn't know who he was. And through a conversation, I knew this was the direction I was going to go. And that is the direction I went. And I've never stopped. I've been teaching this for 20,000 hours, and I just love it. So the introduction is the most important part of the book. If you miss the introduction, if you jump past it, only read it once, don't pay attention to it, none of this works. It has to be crystal clear. You have to want it more than anything else. You want it so much that your natural fears, because you failed before, or you have no clue how you're going to do it, evaporate, because the love, the desire outweighs fear. So whatever purpose you have, goal, intention, whatever it is, you have to be compelled beyond logic. Now, I'm very careful using this word because my friend Jay Pasqua brought this to my attention. I was using the word obsessed, but I realized after he explained it has a negative connotation for a lot of people, obsession. So it's being compelled. It's driven. You're driven, but you don't know why. It is this inner knowing. I have no clue how to do it. This project is so big. This is what I want to do. And nothing is going to stop me. We've all had this at least once. As children, we have it all the time, right? As kids, we see something we want, we repeat it, we tell our parents about it, we rip magazines out, pictures of it out, we visualize, we imagine ourselves with that thing, with our friends, which excites us. And it is that excitement that we as adults must create. And we do it with a definite purpose, with a huge why. What difference will it make in the world if you do this thing? You are the one to do it. You know it. You don't have to be the smartest, but this is yours. This is yours. That's definite purpose. And it's important that you understand that without that, we can't even move on to desire. Because you can't build desire if in your mind's eye you can't see and feel the excitement of having already this thing that you want. Thank you, Jay. You love that. Driven. Driven is another good word. You're the one who got me started on this. Right? Because, Chris is here. Hey, Chris, so glad you're here. Thanks for being here, all of you. So we're looking for questions, clarifications, epiphanies, things that you've done and you go, oh, I got that. Or rephrasing something I said, maybe a way you heard it differently. Because here's the thing, this isn't the only way. This is my way, right? And it's a way that works, but you may not resonate with me. And because we don't always get everything the first time we hear it, we have to hear it again. When you hear other people saying much the same thing and you recognize it, this is a good thing because it further helps you define what this concept is and then to own it. So always be listening to how other people describe the things about which you're curious. All right. Okay. So let's do this lesson for desire. Then we're going to go into mind and visualization because I want you to understand what your mind is doing. We think in pictures. So it works much better if you have a visual image of what is exactly happening within you. We can learn through words. We can learn through listening. We can learn through a lot of methods. We also learn through imagination and visualization. And we can do this intentionally. Linda, you are. She's driven. I got a new frying pan, by the way. I'll tell you about it later for Christmas. I have to tell you one of these that doesn't stick. We'll see. But also doesn't shed off the stuff in the pan so that you eat that too. Luckily, we've come a long way, Linda. Linda is a chef. Okay, so this, I'll make this a little bigger for now so you can take a look at this picture. You've heard of this story We're into desire. We've got a definite purpose. This story is called 3 Feet from Gold. There's a book about it. It is in the chapter, The First Principle of Success, Desire, the Starting Point of All Achievement. And the story goes that 𝑎𝑟𝑢 𝘠𝑗𝐸𝑚, 1850, or no, it had to be sooner than that because he wrote this in 1837. So it must have been earlier on. Or no, it would have to be. 𝑎𝑟𝑢 𝘠𝑗𝐸𝑚 staked a claim in Colorado during the gold rush. Well, it had to be 1850. Now, this is interesting. How in the heck did he put this story in a book that was published in 1937? Once you've read a book 80 or 90 times, these things start to pop up like the inconsistencies. So 𝑎𝑟𝑢 𝘠𝑗𝐸𝑚 went to his family and got the money to get a few tools and stake a claim. And the claim looked really good. He was starting to process the ore, and this whole site was filled with people that were panning for gold, finding sites for gold. I mean, it was the gold rush, in the gold rush days. Very exciting. And he was doing so well that he went back home and borrowed a lot of money to get the big rig stuff, because it really looked like he could not manage the amount of gold that he was able to process. So he borrowed a lot of money, bought all the equipment. He had hidden the site. He covered it up so no one else would go in it, right? And he brought all the stuff back. His definite purpose was to mine gold and give back somehow to the world. We don't know what his philanthropic goal was, but he was driven. He was compelled. He did the work. He found the claim and went home and went into further debt and began mining. And the money was coming in, and he was starting to pay back people, and it was a great thing until one day the gold vein dried up. And they tried everything. They continued to drill. They spent a fair amount of time. They didn't know what was wrong, but the gold was done. Depleted and disappointed, 𝑎𝑟𝑢 𝘠𝑗𝐸𝑚 found the junk man on the site and sold him all his stuff for a couple $100, all those thousands of dollars worth of equipment, because he figured that the junk man would just sell the equipment off to other people. Well, 𝑎𝑟𝑢 𝘠𝑗𝐸𝑚 learned quite a lesson that day, my friends, because the junk man knew the geologist and brought an expert. This is seeking specialized knowledge, which is one of the principles of success. If you don't know, go get the expert. So he got the geologist to come and look at the site. Now this junk man now owns all the property. This is a phenomenal, it appears to be a phenomenal find. And the geologist says, keep drilling. In about 3 feet, you'll be back on the gold vein. It turned out to be the richest gold strike in Colorado during that time. So the lesson here was, he was compelled, but he gave up too soon. He wasn't persistent enough. You're very often 3 feet from gold. How often do we quit something because of our belief about how it ought to go without seeking expert advice? So it was desire that brought that to him, and it was not knowing certain things that had him give up too soon. So let's see if there are any questions. I find, yeah, so glad you're here. So there's a book about this. Hey, so good to see you. It's interesting. There are other stories about this, right? And there are other stories in the introduction and desire. The one that I really like is about when Napoleon Hill outwitted Mother Nature. And I'll just tell you briefly that his son was born with no ears, no opening, no apparent image of an ear. And the doctors had said, he'll be deaf and mute his whole life. Put him in a special school. And Napoleon Hill said, no. He said, I will find a way for my son to hear. I will implant my desire for him to hear somehow. I don't know how. And that's one of the counterintuitive things about achievement. You do better when you don't know how. The universe then will give you and send you people that have the answers. But if you're fixed at the old way of thinking, then those people that have new ideas will just walk right past you. So, very long story short with him, fabulous story. Ultimately, he did hear. And he spent his life, his son, helping people who could not hear. And it's an interesting story in the chapter on desire. So there's a couple of stories there. Now let's take a look and see what's next. Now we did the lesson. We did the principle of desire. Okay. So let's go on to mind and visualization. So I'm wrapping things of my work into this so that you will better understand how visualization works. It is in your imagination. You close your eyes, and on the screen of your mind, which is about 20 degrees above the level of sight, you picture yourself doing the thing, enjoying the thing that you want so much. It's not looking out and seeing yourself in the house you want. It's being in the house, walking around and your feet are sticking to the floor because they just shellacked it. Why? Because mind, and every time you visualize this, is a cellular activity. It affects every cell in our body, what you're thinking and how you feel about it. The idea here is that if you're in the present, in the future, you get excited. The purpose of a goal is to keep you motivated. When you get excited and you can smell the shellac and you can feel the old wood in the house that you've just bought, but it's next year when you bought it, you get excited. It raises your cellular vibration. Lots of scientific research on this if you're interested. Look up Bruce Lipton and James Brody. These are scientists that have proven what I'm sharing with you. And you know this, if you're feeling really great, there's a spring in your step. Sometimes you even get goosebumps. So visualization is something that children do all the time. We've just gotten out of habit of it. So this is how it works. If you'll take a look at this figure and let me just see. I don't know. I've only got 15 minutes. Let me see what 𝘠𝘯𝘠 says here. He's always so clever. Let me be a little philosophical here. Imagine life is for 2 days, one day in your favor, the other day against us. The day it's in our favor, don't be proud. And the day it's against us, be patient. Imagination is, yes. And actually what you're touching on, but it doesn't work by days, is the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, the law of cause and effect. So what he's talking about is part of what I teach. This is understanding how universal laws work. This particular one, when you get a goal or you have a goal, a definite purpose, and you want to achieve it, this is the transmutation of radiant energy. Simply, what we're doing is we're taking thought energy, which is an idea. It's that kind of energy, and it must use us. It internalizes with us, and we actually provide the DNA through the vibration. This is how the universe knows what to send us. Your results will always match the frequency, the amplitude of vibration based on what you're thinking predominantly and feeling. It'll deliver a match. Law of attraction, law of vibration. If you're dragging your feet around and you're saying, I never get a job and I can't make any money, and why are people this and why are people that, you just get a lot more of that. It's a low vibration. It's out of sync with how we were built. So the whole idea here is when you decide you want to do something that has a huge impact in the world, you may not know why you're doing it. You certainly don't know how to do it. If you knew how, you would have already, and you haven't. Or you failed at it. So it takes faith in the face of fear. And that's what you're doing, building faith in your ability and your deservability. So it's a little uncomfortable. When you visualize this, a little bit each day. You drive up your cellular vibration. We're co-creators. Through imagination and intuition, we're directly connected with the universe, our omnipresent source of energetic love. The universe and God wants us all to live successfully. However, the only way we can communicate without even realizing it is how we're feeling, what we're thinking about, how often we think about it, and the way we feel. If we're feeling good and loving and prayerful and generous and kind most of the time, you'll notice that you'll attract those results for yourself. So this is how it works. So you get an idea, you've fallen in love with it, and it comes in through your 5 senses into your conscious mind. Just looking at the time here. You have to hold it. You only have one goal at a time, one supreme visualization at a time. I do it in 12-week intervals. You can do it longer or shorter, whatever you want. Works better at 12 and beyond because it moves beyond habit into pure faith. You have to do something consistently long enough for you to develop faith in it and in yourself. So you hold that idea and you think about it. You maybe take 1 or 2 actions a week toward it. You maybe share it with your accountability partner or your best friend. Now, each day when you think about it, you picture it as though it's already yours. You're already on stage before 10,000 people. They're applauding and throwing flowers at you. You're in your tuxedo or your best dress. So it's very exciting looking out through your own eyes into the audience, if that's your goal. It drives up your cellular vibration. That's what you want to do. Now, this seed is like any other seed, like a physical seed, except for one thing. Just look at the time here. This is an important place to tell you this. There are 2 kinds of seeds, and everything is created twice. Consider. Just consider what I'm saying, because it's a little foreign, possibly, to some of you. Probably not, though. The physical seed, let's take the acorn as it lies on the ground. It's dying. If you slice it open and look at it under a microscope, you don't see a little oak tree, do you? What's there is the DNA to attract from the universe, the environment, the nutrients, etc., so that at some point we can actually calculate in environments through empirical evidence and doing it over and over again exactly when the oak tree will break ground. Ideas are the same, except for one thing. So you get the idea. Visualizing it every day or every other day is building the DNA, the vibration, the amplitude of vibration required to continually send a message to the universe. Now, the moment you get the idea, everything is created twice. The physical manifestation is already done. As soon as you get the idea, it's already there. Now you have 2 things. Your amplitude of vibration over the next few weeks or few months is the velocity with which this physical manifestation comes to you. So you have to do this work. You have to repeatedly send the signal to the universe that this is where you're headed. This is how we communicate with the universe energetically, through vibration. And most of you know this. There's a certain amount of this. So over a period of time, now that physical thing is moving towards you. And then it shows up. Now, if it's negative that you're thinking about and grumbling about, then that's going to show up too. Well, there you go. I got another bill. I told you, I've been thinking about all these bills I've been getting. Oh, I can't stand another bill. That's a very low vibration. So no bills is the second iteration that's on their way to you. And there's another one. There's the proof. Okay, so now the seed has no roots when it starts because you don't know how you're going to do it. So this process begins to grow roots in belief in the possibility. You start to see signs and you go, oh, well, maybe this really does work. And then at the completion of the process, you achieve what it is. The only difference with us is the day of achievement, the day of manifestation is not up to us. We can set a date, and most of us, if we don't hit the date, we give up and say, well, it doesn't work anyway. But the reality is that the law of gender or gestation is one of 7 laws. It will govern when you're ready to receive this thing and enjoy it. So sometimes if you have a huge goal and you haven't done the work and you're not on a vibration to it, so that even if you get this thing, you're going to be miserable because you don't know how to manage it. This is where the universe steps in, because the universe wants you to achieve. It's all about love. So sometimes that law, the universe will hold back and say, hey, you know what? You're not ready to receive this and enjoy it. So that's the only distinction. Oh, look who's here. Okay, well, I'm so glad you're here. Let me see what, hey, Jay, I've gone through so much. I not only build character because of it. Yes, and some of them have a funny voice too. Jay is a storyteller. Good one, Jay. And there's Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. We only got a few more minutes left. I'm so glad to see you, my dear. Hey, Aaron, so glad that you're here. And yes, it is a happy Friday. Every Friday is a happy Friday. So this is the process of transmutation of radiant energy. The thought energy, it has to use us. Ideas only are done through conscious awareness. We have to intentionally do this. Children do it automatically. They see a new bicycle seat or a new bicycle. Oh my God, they see it everywhere, right? All they're doing is thinking about, oh, what's it going to be like to be riding the bicycle with my friend, aggravating your parents. And then Christmas time, there's the bike and you go, ah, how did that happen? Because children are natural visualizers. So now what we're doing is looking at, well, how do we go back? Because fear is what stops us, and our fears are real. We've been burned, people, right? We all have. But it really takes courage to do any of these things, to get off the couch, to take just 1 or 2 steps. Keep in mind that you can reach the top of Mount Everest right now taking baby steps, as long as you don't stop moving your feet. And that comes from Mary Morrissey, who herself has sat with the Dalai Lama. She's a pastor and a wonderful friend and person that I've learned from. Oh, let me see here. Oh, you're always welcome, Erin. Always welcome. All of you are. All right. So now what I want you to do is see how the mind is working. Okay. And where all this stuff is. So you know the process. You get the idea. It comes in through your 5 senses. You're turned on by it. You're excited by it. You don't know why. You've never done it, but oh, that's the one for you. It could be when Aaron's son said, Dad, why don't you have a show on LinkedIn, a live show? And in that moment, that idea came through his son. Right? So you've had this same thing happen. So here's what happens. The information comes into your conscious mind. See the antenna at the top there? See, hear, smell, taste, and touch. That's how we get our information. And the thinking mind accepts or rejects information. So you can reject everything I'm saying, or you can consider it. Whatever you think the most and the way you feel when you think it is impressed through repetition into the subconscious mind. It's not the thinking mind. It's reacting. It's emotional. It's angry. It's filled with fear. There's not a lot of faith there. We've had a lot of experiences with fear. And there they are: criticism, poverty, illness, love lost, old age, and death. We've all been through this. So when we go to do something outside our comfort zone, one of those generally pops up and says, bad idea. Don't you remember when you failed? On the other side of this is the work we're doing right now. And in the conscious mind are what I call spiritual warriors. This is the ability to develop these mental muscles like you would any muscle in direct proportion to its use. It becomes a guard, an armed spiritual guard, so that when you get an idea and the first thing that comes up is, oh, don't you remember when you failed before? You want to write a book? Are you out of your mind? You started one and you failed. Why would you stick your neck out again? This is when these 6 intellectual faculties stand guard and say, wait a minute, and outweigh the fear, because only one thought is going to be maintained. It's either faith or fear. So by visualizing, you're building the faith. And we'll get into that principle. I think it's next week, actually. This is where all your character is. And we're looking at the character of courage. Character also built on virtues and values of yours also grow in direct proportion to their use. So we're building conscious awareness, agile thinking. Most of our thoughts are automatic and not thinking, honestly. We react, we don't respond. The thinking mind responds. The thinking mind has intuition and imagination. The thinking mind has a sensing or a feeling when things are right. The subconscious mind is the negative part of our mind. It's filled with fear. It's not thinking, it's reactive, and it's emotional. So when you allow the emotional side to come up, you're lowering your cellular vibration. Can you go from one to the other? Absolutely. That's the aspiration for all of us, isn't it? To go from fear to faith. And nobody ever makes it and stays there, right? It's not static. And also character. There are many characters, and in my book, The Possibility of Errata, which most of you know about, it is all about virtues and values and love. And it's all about building the strength of imagination and visualization. And that's how I wrote the book, completely through visualization, without intention at all. It was a screen that was going on in my mind, and I simply described it. This is, if you talk to anybody who's written a book, pretty much they're going to tell you they didn't write it. And this is the 11th principle of success, which we will get into, which is the subconscious mind. So, oh, well, no, maybe I don't want to do that yet. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, well, we're at perfect time. Let me just see. Christy, hi. So glad you're here. We've only got a couple of minutes. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Omar. I hope everybody has really enjoyed this, and that you got just a little bit more than you did before. And go back and listen to this again. If you want to read in Think and Grow Rich, read the introduction again and go ahead and read Desire. Don't go any further, because you want to get this in a couple times. You'll notice that your awareness grows and you'll start to see things that you've not seen before. This is what I'm doing, just so you know. In the audiobook is supposed to be coming this month. Book 2 will be in late spring of The Possibility of Errata. There's going to be a collective of Erratians, which I'd love to have you be part of. In fact, in the comments, if you're interested, just say Errata, little e, big R, small ADA, and then I'll know to invite you to the collective. Every Monday, Paulette Hallam and I do a live Mind Over Matter Mondays. This is on Fridays. February 3rd, I'm going to be doing a Wednesday at noon live, where we're going to have the sounds of Errata, the readings of the original book, so that you can get back into the sync before the second book comes out. And then on Monday, February 10th at 8 p.m. for 4 weeks, I'll be doing the first Possibility of Errata book study under the auspices of the 2350 network, which does not meet on LinkedIn, but I am a part of that. So here we are at 10:45 exactly. I hope you all have enjoyed this. Let me see if I've got some music for us. Oh, this is a pretty song here. Ooh, let's see. Anyway, I hope everybody is doing well, that your new year is going well. I'm trying to hurry up YouTube so we can have some music, and you know how this goes with them, right? Here we go. Love you all. Learn, support one another, follow and connect. Your community is right here. Community is the most important thing. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved that rascal Puff and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll end in just a few minutes. Stay as long as you like. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Together they would travel on a boat with a billowed sail. Jackie kept a lookout perched on Puff's gigantic tail. Noble kings and princes would bow whene'er they came, and pirate ships would lower their flags when Puff roared out his name. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. This is in tribute to Peter Yarrow, part of Peter, Paul, and Mary, who created this song that has blessed us all so many times. And with that, I wish you a beautiful weekend, everyone. Thank you for being here. Come back next Friday. Reach out to me if you need me for anything.